uninvited and try their very best to break the habit of the person who's involved in the addiction. Now, Satan has his own intervention program, and I want to tell you about it because I think it's one of the most subtle things that he does. He loves to interfere in the lives of Christians so that he can cause them to do his will instead of the will of God. I am convinced that Satan's intervention plan today is to keep God's people so busy with the things of this world that they have no time to devote to their spiritual lives. And I see that as a pastor. I see it in my church, and I see it as I travel around the country. As I was preparing this message, a friend of mine sent me a devotional that reminded me of the subtlety of his strategy to discourage and defeat Christians. The devotional imagines Satan addressing a worldwide convention of demons and promising them victory in believers' lives if they will faithfully do the following 12 things. Now listen carefully. Keep them busy with non-essentials. Tempt them to overspend and to go into debt. Make them work long hours to maintain empty lifestyles. Discourage them from spending family time, for when homes disintegrate, there's no refuge from work. Overstimulate their minds with television and computers so they can't hear God speaking to them. Fill their coffee tables and their nightstands with newspapers and magazines so they've no time to read the Bible. Flood their mailboxes with sweepstakes and promotions and get-rich-quick schemes. Keep them chasing material things. Put glamorous models on TV and on magazine covers to keep them focused on outward appearances. That way, they'll be dissatisfied with themselves and dissatisfied with their mates. Make sure couples are too exhausted for physical intimacy. That way, they'll be tempted to look elsewhere. Emphasize Santa and the Easter Bunny. That way, you divert them from the real meaning of the holidays. Involve them in good causes so they won't have time for eternal causes. And make them self-sufficient. Keep them busy, working in their own strength so that they'll never know the joy of God's power working through them. The devotional concludes, have you figured out the difference between being busy and being successful in what God has called you to do? Sometimes being busy, B-U-S-Y, just means being under Satan's yoke. If Satan can encourage us to get our lives so full of other things that we have no time for God, he has begun his work in us. And the ultimate end of it will not be something that is pretty.